Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, welcome to the course of Big Data Concepts. We are discussing lecture number 12, and the main topic of the lecture is Spark QL query language. This is your teacher Tariq Aziz, lecturer at Institute of IT, Kohat University, HANGU-CAMPUS. So let's move on to the agenda. Some assumptions with respect to Spark QL, and these are that if we want to represent resources, then how we will represent these resources. We will represent these resources with the URIs, which is known as uniform resource identifiers, or it is also known as URLs, uniform resource locators. And these resources can be abbreviated as prefixed names. So, what about the objects then? The objects can be literals, and these can be strings, these can be integers, these can be booleans, etc. etc. So, what will be the syntax for describing data in RDF data model? There is a syntax which is known as turtle, and this syntax is basically used to describe data in RDF data model. So, what's the syntax of this turtle? We can say this is a file format, or this is a syntax to represent data and to describe data in RDF data model. So the syntax is that the URIs will be represented like this, and we already know about this. This is our URL, or it can be represented like this: prefix column name. Then the literals, they are represented like this: plain string 3.4, etc., etc. All these are known as literals. And then if we want to represent the triple, then what will be the syntax? This is the syntax. So first of all, prefix colon subject. Subjects will be the prefix will be the subject. Okay, and then we will mention the predicate, and finally we will mention the project. So this will be the syntax. Now, dear students, what's the structure of the SparQL query? So this is the structure of the SparQL query, and it consists of these following things. So the first thing is prefix declarations. Why we need this? For abbreviating URIs or URLs, as we discussed previously. Then we will need dataset. Why? To state what RDF graphs are being queried. And then we will need the result class. For what purpose? To identify or extract information to return from the query. The information which the query will return will be represented by the result class. And then we will mention the query pattern. It specify what to query for in underlying dataset. And basically here we will mention the conditions. On the next slide there is an example, and we will explain all these terminologies with the help of examples. Finally, we will have the query modifiers. If we want to slice query results, if we want to order our query results, or if we want to rearrange our query results, then we will need query modifier. Now let's look at the example, and try to understand all these things. So what do you mean by the prefix declaration? First of all, you have to write the term prefix or the identifier prefix. Then the name of the prefix, in this case the name of the prefix is foo, and then you have to write the resource. So this is our resource, this is our URI, or we can say this is our URL. Okay, so basically our URL is the resource. And then how we can mention the dataset? In the from class we will mention our dataset, that from which dataset we want to extract information. Now, dear students, I hope that you come across this term in the SQL query language. And then we will use the how we will use the result class. So the select statement, it basically represents the result class, and it's same as SQL 2. And then we have to mention the query pattern. How? By using the where class, and inside the where class we will mention our conditions. So it is also same like SQL. And then finally we will mention the query modifiers. So this is one of the example of the query modifiers, order by. And we also familiar with this terminology. We used this in the SQL query language. So this is the basic structure of SparkQL query. Now, dear students, what about the architecture of the SparkQL, and what do you mean by the endpoints? The architecture is we discussed previously that SparkQL queries, they are executed against RDF dataset, and these dataset consist RDF graphs. Are these dataset consist of RDF graphs? Now, dear students, the SparkQL endpoints, they accept queries while they return results via HTTP. There are two endpoints in SparkQL. One is known as the generic endpoint, and the second one is known as the specific endpoint. Generic endpoints, it will query any web accessible RDF data, while the specific endpoints, as its name suggests, it will query the particular data sets. Now, what will be the with respect to SparkQL queries? What will be the result format? Let's say if we execute the SparkQL query, then the format of the returning result, or what will be the format of the returning result. So there can be a variety of formats, and like the result will be in XML format, it can be in JSON format, it can be an RDF format, or it can be an HTML format. So you have a variety of formats here, and you can benefit from SparkQL query language. Now, dear students, what about the data set? Data set, there is a data set which is known as a friend of a friend, or shortly it is known as FOAF. So why we need this data set FOF? Because it's a standard RDF vocabulary for describing people and relationships. Dear students, if you remember, with respect to graph database, we said that graph database represent nodes and relationship between nodes. So in this case, if we want to describe people and the relationship among these peoples, then we can use this dataset which is known as FOF dataset. So for example, Tim Berners-Lee FOF information is available at this resource or at this URL. If you people want to know about the dataset of Tim Berners-Lee, then go to this URL. You will find the dataset. So now, dear students, we will look at some of the queries. If you want to query the RDF data model, then what will be the query and what will be the expected result? So our first query is we want to find all the names of people mentioned in the Tim's FOF file. Okay. This is our first query, and this query is using the select statement. It is using the variables, and it is also use the triple pattern. So in this case, our graph is this. This is our RDF graph, or we can say this is our resource. Now, what we have to do, we have to find all the subjects, which is known as person, and we have to find all the objects which is known as name, and these are linked with the predicate this. So this is the representation of predicate. In this case, are subjects, which is person, and objects, which is name. Both of them are linked with this predicate. Now, if you have to represent the predicate, then this is the format, this is the data set, then column name. This is the representation of the predicate. Are subject and object, both of them, they are linked with the help of this predicate. Okay. Now, dear students, the values which this query will return will be of question mark name. Okay, because we need the name, so we need this result. So this query will return all the names. Now, dear students, this is the last point. It says that another way of saying there is okay, we can say that find all names mentioned in Tim Berners-Lee's FOF file. Okay. Now look at the query, dear students. So first of all, you have to mention the prefix. Okay. And we discussed about this prefix because if we want to represent our resource, if we want to abbreviate our resource, then definitely we have to use this declarative or this identifier, which is known as prefix. Then the name of the data set, which is FOAF. Okay. And then colon, you have to mention your resource. So this is our resource, this is our URL, or you can say our URI. Now, dear students, what we need to extract from our resource, we need to extract the name of the people. So question mark name. And why we use this question mark, we will discuss this on next slide. And then in the where class, you have to discuss the triple pattern. So this is our triple pattern. This is our subject, question mark person. This is our predicate, okay, and this is our object. So this is the query, and this is the syntax of the query in SparkQL. Okay. Now, dear students, what will be the expected result of this query? This is the expected result of this query. This query returned all the names of the people. So MC, whatever the pronunciation is, John, Clinton, etc., etc. So we just look at first query, and what this query did, return the names of the people. Now, dear students, why we used the question mark? It says that SparkQL variables, they start with a question mark. So whenever you want to use the Spark QL variables, you have to start it with the question mark. This is a syntax. And variables, they can match any node in the RDF dataset, or we can say that these variables are used to match any node, for example, any resource or any literal in the RDF dataset. Now, dear students, what about the triple patterns? Is there any difference between the triple patterns and the triples? It says that triple patterns are just like triples, but the difference is, except that any of the parts of a triple can be replaced with a variable. So this is a single difference, or we can say this is the only difference, that your triple patterns are just like triples, but in case of triple, every part of this triple can be replaced with a variable. So we have three parts in the triple. That is, the first part is the subject part, second part is the predicate part, and the third part is the object part. So any of these parts, they can be replaced with a variables. Okay. But in case of triple patterns, this will not be the case. Now, dear students, what is the second query? In the second query, we want to use multiple triple patterns, and we want to retrieve multiple property. So for example, we want the names of the people, and we want the email addresses of those people. So what will be the query? This is the query. Now in this case, we need to extract two information. The first information we want, which we want, is the names of the people, while the second information which we want is their email addresses. Now look at the again prefix, the same prefix FOF, the same resource. In this case, now we used a select class with the star, which means that we need to extract multiple information. Which sort of information we want to extract? Mention it in the where class. So in this case, now this is the first triple. This is our subject, this is the predicate, and this is the object. So this triple will return the name of the people. And then the second triple, this is our subject, this is the predicate, and this is the object. It will return the emails of the people if match is found. So what is the expected result? Okay, dear students, in this slide it says that we already discussed that we can use multiple triple patterns. So if you look at the query here, then we used the multiple triple pattern. The first pattern is this one. This whole thing is the first pattern. Okay, while the second, this whole thing is the second pattern. So we used more than one pattern, which means that we can use multiple triple patterns if we want to retrieve multiple properties about a particular resource. But for this purpose, what we have to do, we have to use the select class with the asterisk symbol. Okay, so this is the expected result of the query. Now this is the subject, okay, the person, subject, and this is the name. Okay, the expected result of the query is, now we got names with the corresponding emails. These are the names, and these are the corresponding uh, emails, and this is the resource, the subject. Okay, now dear students, the third query, here we can also use in this query we are using multiple triple patterns, but this time we want to traverse the graph. So what we need to find, we want to find the home page of anyone known by Tim Berners-Lee. So now what's the query will look like this. In this case, now we are using two resources. So the first resource is this, our first URL is this, the name of the dataset is this, the second URL is this, or the second resource is this, and this is the second name of the dataset. Okay, now here what we want to extract, we want to extract the home page, but from which data source? In the from class, mention the data set. From this data set, from this data source, from this resource, we want the home page. Now in the where class, you can mention the uh, triple patterns. So in this case, this is our subject, this is the predicate, and this is the object. But this object, we used this object here as a subject in the second triple pattern. Now this is the predicate and this is the home page. What will be the expected result? So this is the expected result. It will retrieve all the home pages. Okay, now dear students, here it says that the from keyword, it is used to specify the target graph or the target data set in the query itself. So we discussed this point in the previous slide, and here it says that by using question mark known, this is this term, it is behaving as an object in one triple, but it is behaving as a subject in another triple. So if you go back to the query, then in this first case, this entity or this entry is behaving as an object, but in this second triple it is behaving as a subject. Okay, so what's the advantage? The advantage is that by doing this we can traverse multiple links in the graph. So this is the result of the query. Now dear students, the fifth query, okay, sorry, the fourth query, I just mistyped the number of the query. This is the fourth query, and what we are doing here, we are applying filters here. So what we are trying to find, we try to find those countries whose population is greater than 15 million. In this case, now we have three data sources, we have three data set, we can say, or we have three resources, or we can say we have three target graphs. Okay, why I am using these multiple names, so you won't be confused. Now the first data graph is this one, and the name of the data graph is this. The second data graph is this one, this is the name. This third data graph is this, and this is the name. Now we want to select the country name, and we want to select the corresponding population of the country. And in the where class, now you have to mention the country, and then the predicate, and then the object. Okay, so this is the complete query. And in the filter class, you have to mention that population must be greater than 15 million, because here we mentioned the condition that the population is greater than 15 million. So in the filter class, we are mentioning this condition that the population is greater than 15 million. Now, dear students, you may wonder that I didn't explain some of the terminologies, or the reason I told you that I told you before that at this stage, uh, you people should know about all these query languages, and some of the usage of these query languages. But we don't have time to learn all these query languages in detail. Now, at this stage, I hope that you are familiar with all these query languages. But if you need a detailed discussion, or if you want to learn these query languages in detail, then I would suggest that you should do it on your behalf, or search the internet or books, etc. Okay, so the expected result of the query is that these are the country names, and these are the populations of these countries. But here, if you look at the entries, then the entries are duplicated here. Afghanistan is mentioned here multiple times, and then Ethiopia is also mentioned here multiple times. But I want to get rid of the duplicate entries. So here, the second query is, in this case, now what we want to do, we want the countries with the population greater than 15 million, but this time we want the countries with highest population first, and also we want to get rid of the duplicate entries. So again, the same data graphs. Okay, and select we want to select two entries. We want to extract two types of information from the data set. I want to extract the country name, so I mentioned the country name, and I want to extract the population of the country, so I mentioned the country. And then in the where class, just write all these conditions. The In the where class, you have to mention the triples, the subject, predicate, and object, as we did in the previous slides. But in the filter class, you have to mention that population should be must be greater than 15 million. And there is another syntax here. Okay, this is for the highest population country first. I want to retrieve those country with highest population, but I want to retrieve them first. And then I want to get rid of the duplicate entries, so order by, and then descending population. Okay. Okay, now dear students, if you look at the expected result, then in this case, now we have Ethiopia, Afghanistan, Uganda, Nepal, Uzbekistan, and Kyrgyzstan, and these are the populations of those countries. But Ethiopia has the highest population, that's why it comes first, and then Afghanistan second, and then so on. Okay, so dear students, this was all about the Spark QL query language. I hope that you people will understand now. But I again, I would recommend that if you people want to learn this query language full-fledged or in detail, then you should search the internet and the books also. Okay. Let me summarize the lecture 12. Dear students, what we did, as I discussed earlier, that we are studying different query languages to query big data. First of all, we discussed the Hive query language, and in this lecture, we discussed the Spark QL query language if you want to query big data. But in this case, we said that if we want to query RDF data sets, RDF data model, or RDF graph, Then we can use Spark QL because it is most commonly used query language to query RDF data model or RDF databases. And we said that the RDF database is one of the type of the graph database, and we look at the particular examples, and then we look at the architecture and the syntax of this query language, and finally we look at some of the queries of this language and their expected results. So I hope that you people will understand. Thank you.